In Maryland, security is taken seriously. Officer Miller has just been called in as a backup. He runs the city's drug squad. These men have just stopped a suspect on Route 70, the highway linking Washington and Baltimore.
For this scam, just based off of...
They believe this man is a dealer, but they're yet to find any proof.
Is it on you? Check to see if it's in my pocket.
Officer Miller is inspecting the vehicle.
It's indicative that she had something in here at some point and ripped the end of the bag off and hid it, because that was stuffed in here like this. At times it can be difficult because that was found right under here. So if they go to buy a small amount like this, it really could be anywhere within the car.
Soon after, a bag of narcotics was found. Enough to send him to prison for 10 years.
Mix it with both heroin and fentanyl because fentanyl is so much stronger. If you were to go to Baltimore City today and buy this much drugs, you're looking at probably $3,000 at least.
Yeah, I got you. According to Central Brooklyn, where he'll be charged for possession and possession with intent to distribute narcotics.
In France, the young man would be taken to the police station to be interviewed in the presence of a lawyer. Not in Maryland. Here, he'll go straight to prison. The city of Frederick has invested more than $6 million into their prison. It's one of the most sophisticated in the country. Everything is digitalized.
We're going down here, right? Thanks, guys.
The defendant now joins the ranks of many other prisoners, around 36,000 of them across the state. Compared to the number of inhabitants, that's 5 times more than in France. In Maryland, zero tolerance is the new normal. Baltimore, the state's largest city, is one of the most dangerous in the country, with an average of 1 death per day. Since Donald Trump's election, Maryland has become firmly Republican. And crime policy has gotten tougher. Aggressive arrests, heavy sentences.
20 years straight off the jump for a fight. I almost just devastated. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
One man embodies this tough stance.
Hey guys.
Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, a hardcore conservative. He tracks criminals like a soldier in war.
My thoughts basically are kind of like the gladiator. You take the other guy into the arena and you kill him.
His prison has a zero-tolerance policy.
Just kind of keep it down while we're in here, please.
Even the biggest crooks, like gang leader Blake, are put in their place.
If they break you down on the mental aspect.
An intense regime that has provoked revolts in the past.
Sometimes they'll hide knives in the spine there.
Correctional officers like Cornish have to watch their backs.
If you take the bump and put a tub right there.
Inmate accused of killing a corrections officer at the state prison in Jessup.
These are the toughest prisons in the United States.
We decided to use plexiglass because plexiglass won't set off a metal detector.
A coveted glimpse into the prisons of Maryland and their limits.
The sheriffs think that they're in control, but they really have no idea they're not in control.
Encapsulating Maryland's stance on crime, The Frederick County Prison, a high-security facility with double-braced barbed wire. Windows few and far between. Countless cameras to track the inmates' every move. And a yellow line that the prisoners mustn't cross under any conditions. The tough restrictions even extend to clothing, with inmates wearing striped uniforms as practiced long ago. This strict no-nonsense regime can be attributed to one man, Chuck Jenkins, proud to be sheriff and warden of the prison.
Even me. Everybody going into the jail is scanned for contraband and weapons.
Chuck walks the corridors of the prison every Monday morning to make sure everything is in order.
Good to see you.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? No street arrests? We have about 325 inmates here at the jail.
Means how many per day?
Each day, well, it varies. On average, like you said, today there's about 3 came in on any given day. Probably 10 or 12 is probably a busy day.
To manage this flow of prisoners, the sheriff has invested $500,000 on this state-of-the-art system, which allows guards to monitor the slightest movements of the prisoners in real time.
You can kind of compare this to one of these boards in an airport that shows you incoming and departures of flights. Well, this is the same thing for inmates. It basically tells their status, where they're located, where they're going to go, where they're going to be, whether or not they're in their cell, whether there's any movement within the facility. So if you see it just refreshed there just a second ago.
Right.
What is the yellow up there, Mike?
The yellow is laundry.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
This is
Yellow for laundry, red for the kitchen, green for visits, and white when they're in their cell. In one quick glance, the guards know who is where. The prisoners must always wear a badge that detects their entry and exit at each door.
Nobody during my tenure as sheriff, no. Matter of fact, I think it was 1992 or 4.
pretty sure it's 92.
Okay.
Not a single escape in 35 years. The sheriff sees this as a personal achievement. Unlike a classic prison, inmates here are not housed in one large building able to see each other regularly. Instead, they are sectioned off into around 10 cells per block. This limits any trafficking. One could say a prison within a prison.
Hey guys, do me a favor, just kind of keep it down while we're in here.
There are no large cafeterias like in other penitentiaries. Meals are served directly to each cell. This prevents any possible fighting. As some prisoners have tried to pose as others, officers check their badges at least 3 times a day.
Give your ID. All right. I'll check for each inmate's ID. As I do that, I'll check off the name on the roster. The server will then provide the inmate with a tray. With the ID and roster too, we can verify if there's anything, altercations, anything like that. We're observing too with the inmates that come up to the block.
3 times a day, every day, without exception, inmates must be kept in check. In the high security block of the prison, cells are searched several times a week. Each personal belonging is examined, even clothing.
Sometimes these inmates end up with having 4 or 5 pairs of pants when they're only allowed 3. So they have a certain number of socks are allowed up to 7 pairs.
This is Blake's cell. At 33 years old, he has already spent a decade in prison. He's checking that all his photos are still there after the search, including those he discreetly placed above his bed.
You know, we got to try to keep it out of sight. If they see it, then they can take it, and we won't get it back. So
Blake is no angel. He was found guilty of armed robbery in 2009. He is housed in the high security block because he's a member of the Black Guerrilla family, an African-American gang that is one of the most powerful in the country, who are involved in a wide range of criminal activity, including pimping, drug trafficking, and even kidnapping. They are well known both on the streets and in prison. On this CCTV footage from a few years ago, gang members can be seen confronting members from a rival gang. Fights without mercy that are sometimes fatal. Blake is one of the leaders of this movement. Therefore, he can't keep anything in his cell that could be a weapon.
We don't have real pens, we have flex pens. You can't do any damage with it, you know. If you try to hurt someone, it'll just bend. We don't have real toothbrushes. We have little miniature ones, and they're only, you know, it's this big, so we can't fashion it into any type of weapon. And here, I can never go on another block. If I go on another block here, it's an escape charge. If they break you down on the mental aspect that they have you, you know, and in a lot of cases that's true. As long as we can't have no music here. And for a lot of us, music was our life. That's how we relate to people, situations, things like that. And here you can't listen to music. It's not allowed, it's not acceptable. We write to them, we ask them for it, they say no.
They don't even have the right to listen to music. This, for Blake, is racial discrimination. He uses his time on camera to speak out against Sheriff Jenkins.
Fuck them. I hate them. I hate this jail. I hate the sheriffs. They hate us, you know? I think they racist. It's different out here. Like, for a person who gets caught with a handgun and some drugs out here, if you're black, you're going to prison. If you're white, they're gonna give you a drug program.
There's no reason to doubt Sheriff Jenkins, as he's a celebrity here in Maryland. His zero-tolerance policy has led to his re-election to his post as sheriff for the past 12 years. It's worth mentioning that he has some mentors.
This is a picture of Russell Crowe in the movie Gladiator. And I love that movie because my thoughts basically are kind of like the Gladiator. You take the other guy into the arena and you kill him. That's how I win elections. I walk them into the arena and I come out victorious. I like a hard fight. And I don't know, I like the movie Gladiator. It's kind of like me. It's stoic and tough, and yeah. This picture is a little bit of a story behind it. So that's me at the age of actually 2 years old. Our current sheriff, Chuck Jenkins, knew he wanted to be sheriff 50 years ago. To me, being the sheriff was probably the most honorable thing that could have happened.
The sheriff is proud to say he is a Republican. A true believer in Donald Trump and his repressive policies. He was even invited to the White House in February 2018, accompanied by other Republican sheriffs.
They don't believe in what we believe, but we have together done something very special.
Maryland was particularly sensitive to Donald Trump's speeches. This was the first time in 15 years that this little northeastern state voted Republican. This is because living conditions have deteriorated more than ever over the past 10 years. Less so in Frederick, as it's a wealthy city, but in Baltimore, for the past few decades, the city was prospering thanks to its port. But today, it's becoming poorer and poorer. People are leaving the city center due to increased criminal activity. The number of life sentences declared in Maryland is rising dramatically. There are 40 times more than in France. So, what to do with all these criminals? Just a few miles from Baltimore, Jessup State Prison, managed by the Governor of Maryland instead of Sheriff Jenkins. 3,600 inmates are held here, murderers, robbers, rapists, all serving long sentences and watched very closely.
Cornish Dimensional and I post myself, Officer Mahdi, conducting yard check.
Cornish has been a corrections officer at Jessup for 5 years. Every morning she checks the yard before allowing the inmates to enter.
You could find a glove that maybe the worker set out that may have drugs in it from, you could find weapons out here. A lot of times in the windows, outside the window, or they're in the cell, and the inmate comes to the cell and they may retrieve something that way while they're in the yard.
Even behind bars, inmates continue their criminal activity.
Empty.
Cornish's search is interrupted by a message on the radio. Apparently, there's a problem inside the prison.
Something happening within the facility, so the officers have to attend to the situation. So they will shut down yard and gym so that the officers can do the detail.
A fight has broken out in a corridor. The emergency protocol is employed. All prisoners must now return to their cells, and some are reluctant. Yard time is cancelled for today. One of the staff's greatest fears is riots breaking out. Riots are common in American penitentiaries and are often aggressive. They usually start as a fight between rival gangs, which escalate, sometimes with dramatic consequences.
Now new this morning, a 43-year-old prisoner stabbed to death.
Police are investigating at the maximum security facility in Jessup.
Three inmates have been killed over the past 4 years at Jessup Prison, so the warden took the fight that happened today very seriously. He ordered an extra cell search.
Be safe and watch each other's back. Remember, if something happens, observe, back up, observe, call for assistance, and then when you call, we'll come and we'll support you. Make sure you spread it out across the floor so that you're not just bunched in a corner.
All right, let's get them out of here.
Female on the pause, female on the 10.
Cornish and her colleague announced their arrival in the men's block.
Malady.
There are 20 cells and 40 inmates in the block they're about to search. The inmates aren't too happy about this surprise inspection.
Sometimes they'll hide knives in the spine there.
Bathroom. If you take the bump and put a tub right there.
MCIJ, there's violence everywhere. But at the same time, I feel and believe that the officers will have control, where they do feel safe, where not everybody's walking around, if I'm right, Kamalafi, where they're not walking around with a knife.
Weapons are found by officers on a daily basis. They're kept here, far from the inmates, in an administration office.
This is a piece of metal that was fashioned into a weapon that has a point to it. And so all of these are inmate-made weapons. These actually came from the light fixtures that were inside of the housing units.
if he was selling it to a gang member or selling it to somebody who needed a weapon, he could probably make $50 or even make $100 for this weapon, because this weapon would actually kill somebody.
New Olympic Organic Kids Drinkable Yogurt. 50% less sugar than the leading drinkable yogurt.
In an attempt to stop this weapons dealing, officers installed this metal detector. But some prisoners have already found a way around this by making knives with glass or even plastic.
They got smart and decided to use plexiglass because plexiglass won't set off a metal detector. Some of them are actually found on the inmate themselves, hidden in their pocket, in their pants, in their coat, their rectum.
All the officers here know that one of their own was murdered with a weapon like this. His name was David McGuinn. He was 42 years old, and in 2006 he was stabbed 10 times by 2 inmates while doing his nightly rounds. At Jessup, neither the officers nor the prisoners are completely safe. And the women's section is no less violent. Today, 43-year-old Natasha is worried.
You see Shamir? I can't find her nowhere.
Shamal is her daughter.
I cannot find Shamir anywhere.
Both have been serving their sentences in the same prison for the past 12 years.
I'm sorry, Bodie. Did Shamir come down from up top yet? Oh, did you see Shamir?
Jessup is the only female prison in the state. The most serious criminals eat alongside the ordinary inmates. Sometimes things get out of hand.
And nobody wants to be, like in a room with somebody who, mass murdered or whatever. You have to, check everybody out. You never know what everybody's here for.
Yesterday, yet another argument escalated with a prisoner ending up in hospital.
I've been waiting for you for hours.
Shamal was just talking to another inmate for longer than usual.
All right. You didn't think I was coming? You would have been here normally. I'm so used to you picking me up now or being right there.
Natasha and Shamal, a mother and her daughter, a rather unusual pair in prison. The women broke a man's legs, a violent outburst that left Natasha with 28 years in prison and Shamal with 20.
In November of 2007, several teens who attacked 44-year-old Gregory Simmons and beat him so badly.
It all started with an argument between a neighbor and one of their cousins. The fight escalated, with several dozen people joining in, including Shamal and her mum. They violently hit one of the men in the opposing camp before beating him up. He will be disabled for the rest of his life.
Lord, thank you for this food we're about to receive, for the nourishment of our bodies. Bless the hands that prepared it, bless the less fortunate. In Jesus' name, amen.
12 years later, Natasha and her daughter are still paying for this moment of violence. Shamal was only 16 years old when she was sent to prison. She has grown up here.
So I look out for my daughter because I know it's a lot of misguided kids here. They come here and they don't have people look out for them and they end up doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, drugs. No, she doesn't have an opportunity, and not that I would let her. I'll be on her back. I'm kind of a stalker. It's still dangerous because some people just don't care. You have some people who just don't care, and like I said the other day, the ladies were fighting, and they had to go out to the hospital because one stabbed the other, and the other hit the other with a lock or something like that. I mean, it's not even like regular little cat fight arguments. They are trying to hurt you. And the situation is bad, but it's still comforting for her to be here and go through this with him, so I got to go through it by myself. I'm stealing this for her. She likes yogurt. And they search, so I got to put it in my bra.
Inmates are not allowed to take food away with them, but Natasha is an exceptional case, as she has shown exemplary behavior over the past 12 years. So the guards are a little more lenient with her.
And I already got this.
Natasha even got permission to decorate her cell how she likes. It's definitely the most stylish cell in the prison, 86 square foot shared with her cellmate.
If you look at another cell, it doesn't look like my cell. Like this stuff, I made this to give it a little design. My friend painted that picture for me, and I hung that up there. In a prison, it's hard trying to, be comfortable. Like when you decorate and, make things pretty and nice colors in your cell, at least, You feel better. Yeah, you feel better.
One other saving grace, her makeup bag. It doesn't seem like much, but here eyeshadow and lipstick are as valuable as gold.
Well, I had those for 4 years. 4 years ago, they cut the makeup off. And that's when everybody was like, oh, I have to hold on to what I have. Because when it's gone, it's gone. So you want to feel like a woman. You don't want to look like, whatever. You want to do your hair, you try to do your hair and your lips, so you want to look nice. Seen this in a magazine.
Natasha's most valuable treasure is hidden under her bed, with the officer's blessing.
I've been here so long that when I was home, I lost a lot of my stuff. Trying to make a new book for her, for when she, that she can have. So that's her when she was a baby, me and her. She looked like me now, right?
This secret album will be given to Shamal on the day she gets out. Memories of the good times before prison.
She's gonna make me sad. Gonna make me sad. That she doesn't have these things. You know what I'm saying? And so I just wanted her to have, pictures of herself. We lost so much. And this is an ugly picture of her. She hates it. But I love it. Oh no. This is why you don't wear makeup at times like this.
If she had committed this crime in France, Natasha and her daughter would have already been released. But this is Maryland.
I got 25 years for the assault and 3 years prior for a weapon, and they gave me 28 because I had a record. But to give her 20 years straight off the jump for a fight, I almost devastated. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. They're tough. And they're very tough. They need to be more specific. And I know some people deserve tough on crime, but you can't judge everyone by, what some people do. I grew up in a place where, people fight all the time, but they fight with their hands. They get in the fights, they get smart and stuff like that. And, you beat up my sister, I'll beat you up.